everybody. Louise Gittleman here, and I'm back in the saddle again after having a little mishap about 2.5 weeks ago. As many of you know, I actually tripped and fell in the good state of Washington after trying to get out of the car a little bit too quickly, and so I'm back in the saddle again. I used some wonderful remedies. I used a Renew 28 on my little sore ribs. I used a lot of Arnica 30C on my face, and I used it internally every 15 minutes, and I found a natural muscle relaxant called Formula 303 that was a real godsend to allow me to sleep at night. So here I am 3 weeks later, back with you for our question and answers. We've gotten tons of wonderful questions. I'm so appreciative of all of you. Thank you so much. And those questions we've oriented and tried to organize into different sections. So we'll talk a little bit about the pandemic, we'll talk a little bit about hypothyroidism, weight loss, bloating, parasites, thinning hair, Hashimoto, and anything else that comes to mind. So without further ado, I've enlisted my good friend Matt, who's at the other side of the camera. He'll be asking the question so I can just tell you off the cuff what I think. So Matt, the first question that our good friends have asked is about the pandemic.
Yes, Abir asked, is there any homeopathic remedy for treatment of coronavirus?
Okay, so the question is there any homeopathic remedy for treatment of the coronavirus? I know that there are symptoms of the virus that can be aided greatly with homeopathic remedies. The first symptom of the virus that I'd like to address would be the coughing, which you would be using Byronia 30C. The second would be a fever, which would be Belladonna 30C. And most important is a homeopathic known as OXO, oxyquinoline sulfate, that you can get at a particular website, which I think one of my girls will be able to find for you very shortly. It's from a website that is from an office in Santa Fe, New Mexico, from my friend Linda Lancaster. It was the homeopathic that was used for Chris Cuomo when he came down with many of the COVID-19 symptoms. And this is a quinine substance that has been used for about 50 years by my teacher, Dr. Hazel Parcells, who used oxyquinoline sulfate for all kinds of viruses, particularly those that were respiratory viruses or viruses that affected the liver, like hepatitis. So to give you just an idea, anything that's 30C, the Byronia, the Belladonna, very, very helpful, as well as Delsemium 30C for tiredness, and the OXO, oxyquinoline sulfate, which for me is one of the very best of all. Next question, Mr. Matt.
Yes, if we are forced to receive the new coronavirus vaccine, what are some of the ways to detox?
So if you're going to take any vaccine, one of the homeopathics that you should be thinking about is Thuya 30C, which can overcome any of the detrimental effects of the vaccination. So that's typically given to children who may have been exposed to one or more vaccinations at the same time, or for those of you that are going to opt for even the flu shot. So that's 30C Thuya, which you can get online. That can either be in a liquid form or in little pellets, which are made with a little bit of milk, sugar, or lactose. Next question, Mr. Matt.
Paula asks, what do you think of the latest findings that CBD oil may help with the coronavirus?
Okay, so the findings with regard to CBD oil. To be honest with you, CBD oil is very new to the lexicon, so to speak, in terms of its use with any of the viral symptoms. But what I have learned is that CBD oil, in particular types of CBD oil, are extremely anti-inflammatory. And so for that reason, it can be used to kind of dampen the cytokine storm, which is in fact an inflammatory response. So I would say to go for it. The one that I like the best, and I've been doing a lot of research with, is one called Canaway, and one of my gals will give you a link to that particular site. The reason I like this particular CBD oil is that it's mentioned in the PDR. It's the only one I've seen mentioned in the PDR, and seems to be triple processed. It comes from a very, very high element of a high variety of hemp that is grown overseas, and I've been very impressed with some of the spokespeople of the organization. So if you listen to my latest podcast, tune in for Dr. Stuart Titus next week, who is one of the titans in the CBD oil industry and is actually a pioneer in the use of medical marijuana. So this is a real new arena for me as well. To be honest with you, as a child of the 60s, I never smoked, I never inhaled. So to welcome CBD with open arms because of its wonderful healing properties is really quite enlightening for me. Question, Mr. Matt.
Hannah asks, what are your recommendations to prevent or treat COVID-19? Is there anything we should pay special attention to as society opens up, or should we resume normal activity?
So who asked that question?
Hannah.
Hannah, so thank you for that question. As many of you are still concerned, I would say that the best thing that you can do for any type of virus is to make sure that your optimum levels of vitamin D are kept pretty darn optimum. And remember that vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so if you're taking a water-soluble vitamin that's in a pill rather than a soft gel, switch to an oil-soluble variety. The favorite one that I have really liked over the years, because I've used it myself and then measured my vitamin D, is the one that's put out by Carlson. The reason I like Carlson is it's a company that I've known for about 30 years and find that they're very, very ethical, they have a lot of integrity, and they're in alignment with their message. So vitamin D would be number one in terms of symptoms of any type of virus or prevention of virus in general. Number two would be vitamin C, high vitamin C. I like anywhere between 5 to 10 grams at this point on a daily basis in a Time C form. My favorite vitamin C is either a Vitality C that you can take in a powdered form, or the Time C, which is a time-release vitamin C. Third would be vitamin A. The reason I like vitamin A is that it nurtures and nourishes the mucous membranes. And what we have found through clinical studies, one in particular that was done in 2019 by a Dr. Stephanie Taylor, as I remember. It was a Harvard study that found when they really started to investigate all the risk factors for viral infection, they found that it wasn't lack of washing your hands or taking a vitamin D pill or even taking the flu shot or closeness to others. It was the lack of humidity. So interesting found is that a topical cream that can really get into the cell receptor sites from the skin will bypass the liver and will be very helpful in maintaining a positive estrogen to progesterone balance. I love the fact that Progestakey was actually formulated for my clients many years ago when I was writing a book called Before the Change. And it's really very rich in natural progesterone that is UPS certified in the labs, and what we have found is that at 20 milligrams per day, one little pump will give you the physiological dosage you need. Progesterone is more important than ever because it's found in the brain, not just in the ovaries. So to take that on a daily basis where it will ensure that you not only have a natural chill pill at your disposal, but that you'll have a natural diuretic as well. So I'm a big believer in progesterone. I use it once or twice a day, depending upon the date of the cycle. For those of you that are still menstruating, you'll want to have it towards the end of the cycle, and all that is itemized on the bottle. So if somebody will put the list or the link to the natural Progestakey, I'd be very appreciative. Now, Progestakey is formulated naturally in the body with a precursor of the mineral zinc. So it's really imperative that you have enough zinc because it's a precursor for progesterone, very similar to what copper does to estrogen. We're very deficient in zinc, and even though many of you are taking it now to protect against any kind of viral infection, we may not have enough left over to be the precursor to progesterone. So bring on the Progestakey. I use it for my men that have prostate problems. I don't know if Matt realizes that, because Matt is at the age where prostate issues may in fact be a concern. It's a concern for many of my women who have men that have prostate problems, and any of the mothers, any of the brothers, the sons, the husbands out there. So using it in the area of the prostate, just like in the area of the ovaries, could be very helpful. And this little trick was taught to me very many years ago by Dr. John Lee, who is the father of the menopausal and natural perimenopausal movement. So yes, I love Progestakey. It has solved and it has been the solution of many a disgruntled husband's upset with women who have lost their sex drive, who don't sleep at night, who are very irritable and are very anxious. So as you can see, I'm a big believer in progesterone. Next question, please.
Shelley asks,
Shelley.
Perimenopausal women at the age of 50, what are the best things to fight mild adrenal fatigue?
So for anybody that's 50 and above, whether you're perimenopausal, postmenopausal, or just suffering from PMS, the most important things you can do is to take the anti-fatigue vitamin, and that is pantothenic acid, which nobody is writing about anymore. It is exceedingly important because it is the most important B vitamin we have that actually fuels the adrenals. And I believe that everybody who is fatigued and tired and stressed, and I understand that only too well, any of us that are stressed, fatigued, and tired need at least 1 to 2 grams of pantothenic acid a day. It's exceedingly inexpensive. You can get it at the health food store, and it works better for some of my people than even an adrenal formula, rhodiola, or any other kind of adaptogen. So I'm a big believer in pantothenic acid. It's the anti-stress vitamin, and we're all in great need of that in this day and time. Don't you agree, Mr. Matt?
I do.
There you go. Matt's been with me for 8 years, so he knows to agree.
Shalita asks, what supplements should I be taking for occasional fibrocystic breast lumps?
So Shalita has occasional fibrocystic breast lumps. Number 1, go without the caffeine, whether that's tea, black tea, white tea, or green tea. It has aromatic. Oh,
Had a little power.
we had a little power surge just now. Anything can happen here in Idaho. I hope we're on. See, anything can happen during a pandemic. Power failure. Are we on?
I think we are.
Okay, so the question was, where were we? Fibrocystic breast?
Fibrocystic breast lumps, yes.
Okay, so the fibrocystic breast. And additional iodine, Shalita, could be exceedingly helpful because we know that iodine is located in the greatest amounts in the thyroid, in the ovaries, and in the breast. So making sure you have at least 2 to 5 drops of Lugo solution, iodine, and 8 ounces of water in a 2% Lugo solution will be very, very helpful. But getting off of any caffeine might be the trick, period, as well as some extra CoQ10 to the tune of 300 milligrams. I hope we're still on, guys. Let us know if we're on. Give us a little thumbs up.
Looks like we're good.
Okay, we're good. To continue.
Christy asks, I am 55 years old in perimenopause. Probably have estrogen dominance and weight gain around my waist that I've never had before. Should I purchase Radical Metabolism, the Radical Metabolism supplement, or would CLA or GLA be better for me?
So Christy has an issue with weight gain. Yes, weight gain and bloating at the age of 55.
Yes.
If I can cut to the chase.
Yes.
So the thing that I would do, Christy, is get a product called Weight Loss Formula. And even though it's called Weight Loss Formula, it's not just for weight loss. It's going to help your liver metabolize hormones, particularly estrogenetic-based hormones. It contains all the liver-loving herbs that we could think of in the dose that your body can tolerate. And it's very important because it contains a certain amount of chromium, which is so important to keep blood sugar levels at an even keel. I would take 2 of those 3 times a day. And I'd also make sure that you're adding a little bit of CLA to the regimen because you'll get very quick belly flattening results with CLA to the tune of 6,000 milligrams for the first 2 weeks, after which you cut back to CLA 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. That will help you, as well as my program. For you in particular, I'm going to say go to Fat Flush Phase 1. Go on the 2-week Fat Flush, get rid of the bloat, add those supplements to the routine, and that's part of our weight loss kit. It's our Fat Flush kit, and I would also suggest that you make sure you're taking enough cran water to kind of flush your system. It'll help keep everything open, and it'll be very good in terms of your cran water, which is so important for your lymphatic system. That's very good to kind of release all the cellulite in your system. So for the fastest results, go to fatflush.com, and we've got a Fat Flush group online, which is the Fat Flush Nation. 2 weeks on Fat Flush, 2 weeks on the 2-week Fat Flush, and you'll see that you'll have terrific results. It's very important also because there's some anti-estrogenic elements that are part of that program, which you don't get in any other program, which are the flax seeds and the flaxseed oil. So, in essence, yay for Weight Loss Formula because of its liver-loving properties, because it helps with hormonal balance, and it's because it's very important in tamping down your appetite, good for weight loss and good for measuring and getting the insulin back where it needs to be because of the extra chromium. And that's good for anybody, Matt, just not people in perimenopause. Weight Loss Formula is my go-to right now. It's because it's liver-loving season, because it's liver season. We're in, what are we in? Almost June. One day just kind of melds into the others, but this is still theoretically liver season. We go into a different season, June 21st, where it starts summer season, which focuses on the heart. So now you really want to focus on the liver. I say get some Weight Loss Formula. It's It's wonderful, and then we'll see you online in the Fat Flush Nation. Next question.
So Christine asks, I have Hashimoto's. I eat clean, healthy foods, exercise regularly, but cannot get my weight to budge. What are the next things you would suggest to get my metabolism going?
For somebody that has an autoimmune issue like Hashimoto's, number one, I'd love you to get rid of your Hashimoto's. You can do that by following my Radical Metabolism, where we see that there's a connection between the thyroid, the bile, the gallbladder, and the liver. So that would be number one. Number two, make sure you're not eating any gluten or anything that resembles gluten, which could include rice in some cases. Some of the proteins in rice the body can mistake for gluten. So that would be number two. Number three, in terms of weight loss, there's a product that I recommend specifically for you. It's called Radical Metabolizer. I have found that it's particularly good for any kind of autoimmune issue, particularly Hashimoto's, which seems to be epidemic, Matt. So many of my women are suffering from Hashimoto's. The other thing I'd like you to do, as well as anybody else that has Hashimoto's, is to take a blood test and get your T3, your reverse T3 check, because we're finding a lot of people that have elevated reverse T3s are suffering from heavy metal toxicity. When there's heavy metal toxicity, those heavy metals can impact the thyroid deleteriously. So it's not that your system is attacking itself, as they say in every autoimmune disease, but there could be some sort of heavy metal infestation or infection that we want to really kind of neutralize. So those are the things that I would do.
All right. Diane asks, what is the best diet for someone who has hypothyroidism?
The best diet for somebody, Diane, with hypothyroidism is to get on Radical Metabolism, which I wrote for people with hypothyroidism and any kind of autoimmune issue, and to make sure that if you take a look at that program, that you're upping your protein, because protein increases metabolism by 25%. So I really love that. I love the omega-6s because they increase metabolism as well. And I'm a big believer in taking bitters into your diet because it assists with digestion so that you're not feeling bloated or poochy or retaining excess water. So Radical Metabolism, just check out radicalmetabolism.com. It should help you immensely.
All right. Lisa asks, I have suffered greatly with anxiety my entire life.
Are we still on hormones?
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of hormonal questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've suffered greatly with anxiety my entire life. What can I do naturally to offset this debilitating illness?
You know, I've always bordered on a little bit of anxiety. My mother used to call it being high-strung. So I kind of relate to that a little bit. Number one, check to make sure that you're not mercury toxic. So that's number one. Take a TMA, a hair analysis test from UNI KEY. We can check and see what's doing with your mercury and your copper, because those two elements, particularly mercury and then copper, can impact anxiety. So we want to kind of neutralize that and make sure that that's not triggering anxiety. Then number two, once that is cleaned and cleared, I'd make sure that you're not taking excessive amounts of copper-rich foods into your diet, which can impact the zinc, which is very calming. Copper-rich foods include chocolate. All the popular foods now are copper-rich. Chocolate and avocados and nuts and seeds and even heavy-duty tea as well. So I'd make sure that those are out of your life. And then take two supplements. One of them in particular for the anxiety would be their Ultra H3 that we have, Ultra H3 Plus. I hope one of you girls will put a link to that. I've seen that work wonders, particularly because of the benfotiamine, which is very calming. And then the CBD oil is known to be very helpful for mental health issues, particularly this variety that I interviewed Dr. Stuart Titus about, which is the Canaway product. So that's what I would suggest to you. Last but not least, I take something for when I get a little anxious, and that is GABA, G-A-B-A. I take 750 milligrams before bed and first thing in the morning. So you've got your copper and zinc ratio to be concerned about, getting rid of heavy metals, including mercury, including copper, and this CBD oil can be really helpful, particularly for mental health issues. Not only did I interview Dr. Stuart Titus, the titan in the CBD oil industry, but I interviewed Dr. Hyla Cass, whom I've known for years and trust implicitly, who is a natural psychiatrist, and she uses CBD oil in her practice for all of her clients with mental health issues. So it's good for anxiety, irritability, lack of sleep. It just calms the system down quite nicely, and it works when other things don't. So that's what I can offer to you, Lisa. Thank you. Next question.
Yes, Marissa asks, are there any side effects to starting Progesta-Key?
Marissa, sometimes we have another question about Progesta-Key. Sometimes when you start adding, the Progesta-Key can target the estrogen sites as well. So you have to give it at least 2 to 3 cycles to kind of settle your system. And if you have an estrogen dominant situation, you're also going to want to take a liver-loving supplement like Liver Lovin' Formula that I helped to develop to make sure that all of your estrogens are being metabolized by the liver.
Very good. Debbie asks, had a hysterectomy, taking 0.5 milligrams of estradiol. Can I
Estradiol or estriol?
Estradiol. Sorry, excuse me.
Or is it estriol or estradiol? There's a big difference.
It says estradiol. Can I add natural progesterone cream?
Yes. Anytime you're taking estrogen in any kind of form, with the exclusion of estriol, which is the anti-cancer estrogen, that's why I wanted to be sure, Matt, what she was talking about, because it's usually 0.5 grams of estriol that people take. But if this is estradiol, then you have to counter that with progesterone. Even if you don't have your ovaries or your uterus, you always balance it with progesterone because it's needed for the brain. So yes, Progesta-Key to the rescue, and follow the instructions that are on the back of the bottle, because it will tell you, depending upon your age and stage of life, how to apply it.
All right, Wendy asks, I had a total hysterectomy 10 years ago. My testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone are pretty much non-existent. My cortisol is low in the morning and high at night. What do you recommend I take, as I have the following symptoms? Exhaustion, dry eyes, weight gain, can't lose weight, achy joints, puffy hands, and face.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've got to get your hormones balanced, number one. Your lack of hormones need to be balanced. We have to trick your body into thinking you still have enough of these lovely hormones that can actually get your system on target again. I would take a hormone panel test that we offer through UNI KEY, and we can suggest some natural remedies and to replace testosterone, to replace estrogen, the progesterone, the Progesta-Key, and you may be in need of a little pregnenolone, which is the grandmother. I bet you didn't know that, Matt. It's the grandmother hormone, which can transfer itself into DHEA, and then that goes into the various hormones that your body might need. So we've got to get a test to get your base values, my dear, and then from there, Tracy St. Peter, who works with us at the UNI KEY Health Systems, she's one of our wonderful test coordinators. She will help you dramatically, and you can even give her a call to go over your results. So Tracy or Rhonda or Liz, whomever is posting this today, make sure we have a link to the analysis so that people can really get a sense of what we offer. Now that also comes with a letter from me, which will analyze the situation and give you some natural remedies to help up those hormones. When you get involved with natural hormones, Matt, and I know you need to know this because you have a wife and 2 daughters.
I do, yes.
But when you get involved with natural hormones, bioidentical hormones, they're a wonderful substitute for the synthetics, and many women like to use them. But they have to be monitored every 2 to 3 months, and it can become very expensive. So we give an alternative to the bioidentical using certain herbal elements and botanical elements. And I think it's a great way to go for those that don't want to continually test or don't have the money to go to a compounding pharmacy.
Very good. Vicky asks, I've been diagnosed with, we're on to the gallbladder.
Gallbladder,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Vicky asks, I've been diagnosed with
We're still in
biliary...
gallbladder season, by the way, Matt. This is liver and gallbladder season now.
Okay.
Yes, according to traditional Chinese medicine. So this is very apropos.
All right. I've been diagnosed with biliary dyskinesia. My gallbladder is basically not functioning at 9%. I have no stones or sludge, and she was asking basically, should she have her gallbladder removed or should she try to keep it?
I'd keep that gallbladder as much as you can, because we know that without the gallbladder, there's not a timed release of bile, which is important for detoxification and the breakdown of fats and the breakdown of hormones. So what I think you should do is go to an osteopath and make sure that all of your bones are in the right place, that the organs have not been dislodged. Go to somebody that can do some visceral manipulation, making sure that nothing is stuck together, that you don't have adhesion someplace. And then from there, I would take a remedy called Bile Builder, which can help facilitate all of the processes that the liver is designed to do, and you may need just a little help from some of those botanical elements that it contains. Probably last but not least would be a castor oil pack, which has also been found to be exceedingly helpful for these areas that are not black and white but rather gray. So this is a common issue that we're finding with more and more people, Matt, but I find that they actually need to go to a chiropractor and osteopath to make sure that everything is in alignment, to make sure that the organs themselves are in the right place. You can do that with a visceral massage therapist that's trained either with the Barnes technique is one that I know of, and there are other techniques as well that I'm not as familiar with. And then, of course, using the bile builder.
Very good. Angelique asks, if you have a fatty liver, and since we take many supplements, do the supplements also tax our livers as well?
Anything is going to tax a fatty liver. Alcohol will tax a fatty liver. Fruit will tax a fatty liver. And supplements most definitely. But what you need for a fatty liver, and this is anybody that has a fatty liver, a non-alcoholic fatty liver or an alcoholic induced fatty liver, you need to get the supplement choline, because in the amounts of 500 milligrams 3 times a day, it can defat a fatty liver. So we're very deficient in choline. It's not in a whole lot of foods these days, and there's certainly not foods that many of us are fond of eating. So I would either get our bile builder supplement, which I help to formulate to neutralize the negative effects of a fatty liver, and also to help people that don't have a gallbladder, because it contains some oxbile salts, the same formula. So it's bile builder. And if you don't do anything else at this season, Angelique, just take those elements that are good for the liver. That would be a liver loving formula, dandelion root tea, lots of bitters, bitter fruits. Grapefruit is magnificent. Maybe some arugula, some watercress. I love sauerkraut in that regard, and make sure that you just take that particular formula. You need at least 500 milligrams of choline. I mean, there have been studies, and this one that I'm remembering is out of the University of North Carolina. I think in about 6 weeks, choline in and of itself defatted a fatty liver. I mean, nobody can make those kind of recommendations in traditional medicines,
right,
or I should say allopathic medicine. So that's pretty magnificent. Choline, everybody, remember choline. It's a lipotropic nutrient.
All right. Eva asks, a person with an AB blood type, and she said, I believe you said that they cannot digest protein well. She also doesn't have a gallbladder, and what would be the best to help with her digestion problems? She also has SIBO.
Okay, so we've got all kinds of things going on here, which makes sense with an AB blood type. You're 4% of the population. You're special creatures, ABs. So a lot of people that have an A part of their blood type are achlorhydric. They don't secrete enough hydrochloric acid. So you need hydrochloric acid. Whether you get a Heidelberg test or whether you try some of our HCl plus 2 and then get some pH paper at the pharmacy or online, take some HCl plus 2, which is a hydrochloric acid supplement. It'll help you digest, get rid of your bloat, help you with protein digestion. It'll help with your hair, your skin, your nails. It's an actual go-to that nobody's talking about anymore, because there's not a lot of money to be made in these natural supplements as there is some of the herbs in the month. But when you take the HCl plus 2, in 20 minutes, check your saliva. It should be very, very alkaline. If it's alkaline, you know that your HCl is working. So that's just an inexpensive way of checking to see if you have enough HCl. If you don't have enough HCl, you're subject to bacteria and virus and parasites. So you get a lot of small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, the SIBO that she was referring to. So I say, get you some SIBO. Oh no, get you some HCl. It'll make sure that everything in your system is much more sanitized, so to speak. It's your first line of defense against any of the outside onslaughts. So that's exceedingly important. HCl used to be talked about in the 60s and 70s, my favorite decade, when I used to read prolifically about HCl, and some of the doctors in San Francisco, a Dr. Tuckey, for example, that used to use it with all of his clients that had issues with their skin, their hair, their nails, their bloating. And it was like the genie in the bottle that nobody else recognized. So it's exceedingly important. And we're so HCl deficient, Matt, because we're all stressed. When you get stressed, you affect the secretion of natural stomach acids. And so as you get older, especially after the age of 40, which I know, I don't know if you are at this point.
Yeah.
You still look like you're in your 30s. But we're all starting to get deficient in HCl. and that makes for little red marks on the skin. It makes for a lot of rosacea, problems with the hair, problems with bloating. HCl is so important. I'm sure that everybody needs some HCl. They need our Progestakey if you're feeling a little anxious, as we all are during this pandemic situation. Most people need a little adrenal formula and some help with their thyroid. And then we got to get rid of the heavy metals, which is where the our greens come into play, our daily greens, because of the chlorella. So everybody is suffering from the same type of things, the same kinds of patterns of health, and it's all because of deficiencies and toxicities, because we're living in an ever-increasing toxic environment. So you have to make your body into an invincible fortress. Okay, next question.
So Holly asks, I'm a 52-year-old postmenopausal. She has lost over 100 pounds through clean eating. And she's concerned about the health of her liver because she has dark spots on her hands and her face. And what can she do besides her clean eating that will help cleanse her liver?
So what I want you to do, Holly, and anybody that's getting these brown spots on their face, on their hands, on their body, it's usually a sign of, it's called lipofuscin, which is kind of junk iron that comes out on the skin. So what we need to do is measure our iron. Let's get a ferritin test. And I need you to post within the next 2 weeks. Send it to me in a post. I'm trying to think, or info@annlouise.com, what your ferritin level is, because dollars to donuts, you should excuse the expression, you've got high iron, and the higher the iron as we get older, the higher this junk iron becomes manifest in the skin. So we're going to want to get rid of that by moderating your iron content. As women, we used to menstruate, maybe until we're at the age of 50, and then we start to accumulate iron, and then we get all the diseases that many men get, including heart disease, because of the iron connection that people don't recognize. Well, that iron infects your blood, it infects your joints, it can affect the brain, it affects the heart, and it'll affect the skin. So the topical sign, your skin is the second liver, so we want to see what the liver is doing about iron. We want to use something called Kojic, Kojic, topically to get rid of those brown spots, but I want to see what her numbers are. Theoretically, you should not be higher, and I just did a book about this, so I know all the latest research. You shouldn't be higher than 70 NGs per DL. 70 NGs per DL. The levels of iron, when you look on the typical blood test, are way skewed because they're levels of a sick population. You don't want to be higher than 70 NGs. And when we look at the blue zones, their iron levels are record low. So you want to be on the lower side of normal. You want to be in the sweet spot. But that's a really important issue because it's affecting the brain, it's affecting the heart, it's affecting the liver, as I say, and it surely affects the skin. I think we should take about 3 more good questions.
Okay.
And then save the rest for next week, when hopefully we will not have a blackout. But you should excuse it because we're still in the pandemic.
Okay. Well, this is a pretty good one.
Okay, good one.
Sharian says, I've had high T3 and T4. Been trying to correct my gallbladder through naturopathic, remedies. I still have bloating and heartburn. I tried eating for my blood type, which is AB, but after time, he's still not getting a whole lot of results. Is there anything else that he can do or she can do?
We've got another AB, so that's HCl plus 2 that I just spoke about for quite a bit. So the HCl plus 2. We've got to get a reverse T3 because you could be having an issue with heavy metals. I see a lot of elevated mercury these days and a lot of elevated lead. And if that's the case, we start taking a lot of cilantro, a product known as Daily Greens, which has a cracked cell chlorella that can chelate the extra mercury from the system. And we really need to get a sense of what the heavy metal might be. So taking a tissue mineral analysis would be the next step. When there's something wrong with the T3 and the T4, there could be a deficiency sometimes of selenium, but most oftentimes I'm finding that it's a toxicity manifestation of too much heavy metal. We got to figure out which one it is, and UNI KEY has the TMA testing, which will be able to analyze that and figure out exactly what's going on.
All right, we're going to move on to autoimmune.
Autoimmune.
Any help for psoriasis, arthritis that isn't prescription? Can you stop or reverse joint damage?
So what I would do for any kind of psoriasis is I would get a high-dose gamma-linolenic acid, a high-dose GLA. We sell that through the UNI KEY Health Systems. As you know, I'm a product spokesperson. I'm a I guess we call it a brand spokesperson now, so that's complete transparency. I helped develop many of these products. I've been writing about them for 25 years, and they work because I've had some really good teachers in my day. I've been at this for 40 years. It's a long time to see results and to know what works. But I would do, I would get the GLA 90, I would do 4 in the morning, 4 at night, and another 4 in the middle of the afternoon. We need an awful lot of the good omega-6s. I've read a lot of studies about the omega-6s and psoriasis particularly. And what was the other issue? And the joint.
Joints, yeah.
Very important for joints. Stiffness of the joints and lack of synovial fluid. You might need a little extra hyaluronic acid, and for that I take a product called Baxyl, 2 teaspoons a day of BAXYL, which you can get online. I live with hyaluronic acid. It's very good for the joints. The reason people start losing they lose height as they get older is that synovial fluid in the joints and in the vertebrae start to diminish, start to dry out. So we could get taller with more synovial fluid.
Nice.
And this is a great, great product. Now, UNI KEY doesn't sell it, but you can get it online.
All right.
One more good question, and then we're going to thank you very much for your your gratitude, your time. I'd like to see who's out there. I can only look in a camera and not see all of you. So let us know who you are and how you are.
Well, this is a weight loss question. It has
Weight
to
loss.
do with the quarantine and all that, so I think it's very appropriate.
Okie doke, for those of us that are still kind of locked down.
I've been doing Fat Flush for over a year now. My weight plateaued for a while, since the lockdown, I've gained 15 pounds because of my husband's home cooking.
Oh my gosh.
I'm on phase 2 using only the Fat Flush kit with no additional support. What do you suggest?
Okay, so if you really want to get the weight off, it's weight loss formula, but you double up 2-3 times a day for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would double up on GLA and double up on CLA. I mean, that's what I do when I have to lose weight quickly. And we all, as we get older, metabolism slows down, Matt, as you'll see as you get older. Yeah. Trust me.
I'm noticing.
And if you're a female, you really start to slow down. You have to work harder. The maintenance gets tougher. So these are kind of my go-tos. The weight loss formula, I think it's because it modifies blood sugar. It's a high dose of chromium, which is so important as a cofactor for insulin. It's got a lot of liver-loving herbs in there, which are helpful to break down all kinds of toxins, including hormones. The CLA and the GLA are just wonder workers. They're omega-6 products, which we don't get in the diet very much anymore unless you're eating a lot of grass-fed animals in terms of butter and cream and so forth, but you're still not getting enough CLA. And so those are the ones that I have written about for years. They're good for the skin, good for osteoarthritis, it's good for psoriasis and eczema, and it's just good for anything that ails you. So on that note, I don't know how long we've been talking. Maybe my boys will tell me.
About 40 minutes.
We've been talking 40 minutes. I hope we didn't have too much of a glitch, but if so, you'll have to excuse us. We'll be back with you next week. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.